The first time that I ever thought about a natural resource-based conflict was at age 12 in my guitar class. My music teacher was adamant to teach me a love song about a local river Narmada instead of a Bollywood hit. You know, where I come from, writing songs about rivers and mountains is very common. The songs about Narmada were even more special, primarily because they were sung by local communities to fight against government for the dam construction. Narmada is one of the longest rivers in the country and has one of the world's most controversial dam projects. The conflict began in 1980s when two state governments which share the river sanctioned a mega dam, approved a mega dam construction project. World Bank decided to fund the project, but all of that was done without consulting with hundreds of thousands of people who were asked to displace from their lands and homes. Conflicts, well, amid all the public resistance, it took almost 26 years to finish the construction of the dam. It took another 10 years to finally inaugurate the dam. And the protest against the government for fair resettlement benefits is still on. This photograph on the slide is one of the protests by the local communities. Conflicts like these, like Narmada, are classic example of conflicts in countries, diverse and developing countries like India. While growing up around this conflict, I had multiple questions. On one hand, you had activists in the local communities asking government, why are you violating our rights to basic livelihood and our ownership on the natural resources? And on the other side, you had government asking the activists, why are you opposing a mega development project which can give electricity and irrigation facilities to millions in the state? When I was analyzing this case for my final project, I was challenged to ask a different question. The question for me was, what would a conversation between people who write love songs for the rivers and people who want to build back dams on the river may look like? Technically speaking, can alternative dispute resolution methods change the course of conflicts such as this? These questions intrigued me and my supervisor at Consensus Building Institute. Consensus Building Institute has been working in the US since last 2 decades using mutual gains approach, which is one of the alternative dispute resolution approach, to bring stakeholders together and conduct multi-stakeholder policy discussions around complex social problems. That's where my project came in. The big picture was, can CBIs, that's Consensus Building Institute, alternative dispute resolution methods be useful in India? And the first step towards this inquiry was to just understand what's the landscape of conflicts in India. And to do that, I mostly did secondary research, which involved not just diving deeper into the research papers, but also going through the databases of the conflicts and try to understand the subjective nuances where these conflicts happen, and then identify the opportunities where CBI could intervene. Here are my key findings, and I'm going to rush through them, and you can ask me questions later. On the types and cost of conflicts, not all conflicts result in mass confrontation with the government. Bunch of these are just policy deadlocks where the problems are so challenging that it takes a lot of time to come on a collaborative decision. The challenge here is not necessarily just consensus building, but competing uses. There are 3 major subcategories in it: inter-ministries, interstate, or multiple stakeholders. Then there are project deadlocks, something like Narmada's case, where community confronts with the government or the corporation, or corporation confronting with the government. I did 1 case study in each, except the corporation and the government. And what are people fighting most for? There are 12 key categories on the conflicts, and the first one is the land dispute, followed by water management, and then followed by climate justice and fossil fuels. Out of all the responses and the activities that are undertaken to respond to the conflicts, they can be categorized into 3 things. Representation, which is essentially voicing your opinion. Just because you're voicing it does not mean that it will be heard, and it will be heard effectively in the final decision. Protests are the most common form of representation in India. Then you go on to dialogue, where you bring different stakeholders together, you discuss about the issue. Just because dialogue is happening does not mean it has diverse representation, as you can see here. And it happens mostly in the forms of public hearings and independent commissions formed by government and civil societies. And then the last one is resolution, which often happens through court cases, which are expensive and tedious, or through city mayors or district collectors who resolve the issue right there in the community. Each one of these have their own limitation, and alternative dispute resolution lies at the intersection of all these three. These are the key hurdles that I identified for conflict resolution in India. Out of these four, the three are the ones that are sort of manageable for an organization like CBI, right from contextualizing policy implementation through comprehensive stakeholder mapping and impact assessment to addressing the lack of capacity for government agencies for effective stakeholder engagement and information asymmetry. In terms of specific entry points and short term, I divided my recommendations into two parts. One, how they can be part of resolving the ongoing conflicts. This could happen, one, by creating a safe space or a neutral space by partnering with an academic institutes where multiple stakeholders can come. And of course, training and capacity building of the actors who are already at the forefront of resolving these conflicts. And then second, helping government agencies and community organizations to build capacity or build systems to prevent conflicts. So that's all for me for now.
What are some of the motivating factors that would bring all these stakeholders to the table?
So one is the pressure. So if you take the corporations, they know the cost of delayed projects. It could be really high, and especially right now, corporations are really trying to build their collaborative capacity to maintain really good relationships with the community. And then you see the pressure on the government for exactly the same reason, that once there is enough mass mobilization or disagreement, there is a lot of pressure to perform well. In case of Narmada, because of the people's movement there, they were able to attract international agencies, and that's why it took 32 years to finally open the dam. Yeah.
What about issues of water right and ownership? That are the real issues of conflict in a lot of water issues.
And it is there. I mean, that's there in case of not just water, also related to forest. So that's another thing that India is really struggling with. How do you define rights? So in case of forest or in case of water, on one side you have a Ministry of Natural Resources, which will say, well, we're going to put conservation efforts. On the other side, you have the Tribal Welfare Ministry, which is going to say, well, our whole population lives in here. So we don't have a clear answer for that. The positive sign is that India has come up with a lot of independent commissions, and it is really looking forward for some creative solutions. And that's where I think organizations like CBI can really add value. But there's no easy answer to that, except that sit down and try to.
Generally, in other places, that's the main reason for the deadlocks, that you don't know who owns what.
Yeah, so there is a lot of problem, and that's why there are a lot of cases. The Kaveri River dispute, which is an interstate dispute, is exactly that, like the ownership of how much water and how much we're going to get. There are no easy answers, and that's why doing a very structured multi-stakeholder public policy dialogue really is critical. Yes?
Good to know that there is not only transboundary rivership between India and Bangladesh, but also like rivership competition.
All the time, yes.
I was just curious to know that in the case of Kaveri River dispute or Narmada River dispute, how about the role of the activists from the community, like leader activists who took the leading role, and then how, like, is there any example like how they successfully did the communication with the government and between the two states or?
Yeah, I mean, in case of Narmada, the whole they started a people's movement called Save Narmada Movement, which is Narmada Bachao Andolan. It was essentially started by one person, Medha Patkar, and she actually finished her PhD in social sciences and left it halfway through and collected the people. And she more than communication with the government, what she did was she unionized the whole community and came up with discrete demands. So they were not opposing the dam construction right at the beginning. They were demanding resettlement benefits. So just being the face of the movement, bringing diverse communities together, and also writing demands in a way that the different actors could understand, That was a key role by local activists. And then there were, of course, a series of activists both came in terms of artists, environmental protection, and they did a lot of work together to take this issue to the international agencies as well. And World Bank eventually took back their funding. So that was all because of the people's movement, which was driven by activists. Okay. So, Lily.
Is CBI going to go forward with it?
Yeah, they're really excited about this, and we might have a pilot coming up. So we're still talking about how are we going to go about this. But if we take up that pilot would be the just transition related to how do you talk about rights when you're moving from extractive industry to regenerative economy. So we are excited to do this.